Here now is Solutionaries.
Welcome back to Solutionaries. I'm Louis Bold, and today we're talking about several important issues, including voting confusion. But we start with gun safety.
From Uvalde to Buffalo to Highland Park, the recent mass shooters had something in common. They'd all shown red flags before their killing sprees.
The 18-year-old was taken into custody last year for threatening to shoot up his high school.
The suspect apparently tried to take his own life with a machete in 2019, threatened to kill others that same year.
He would hurt animals. He was not a good person.
These are warning signs that authorities must get better at recognizing. States across the country are passing red flag laws, and Florida is ahead of the curve with more cases than anywhere else, starting this right after the Parkland school shooting in 2018.
You want to make sure that that you're not interfering with these rights cavalierly.
Florida statutes now allow law enforcement to file a petition called a risk protection order to take away firearms from people who present a clear and present danger to themselves or others. Mark Mahan is the chief judge for the 4th Judicial Circuit. We sat in on one of his hearings where he'll decide whether this man should have access to guns.
After they're done, I'll give you an opportunity to make any statement or present any witnesses that you want to.
We are not showing this man's face because he is not criminally charged. This is a civil case, but Jacksonville sheriff's officers testify that they responded to his home and he was talking about death, bodies, and then he threatened to shoot them.
Officer Perry told him as soon as we got out of the car, and that's when he pointed at me and he said, "Sorry for the shot him" at that time.
The man did not dispute the officer's statements and said he'd been suffering from PTSD and depression. Judge Mahan decided it was best he go at least a year without firearms.
But do you have somebody giving you some help? Do you have access to some help?
Yes, sir.
Is this a good way to stop the next active shooter?
Well, right now, I think it's one of the best tools that we have.
If the subject violates the order, they'll be arrested.
I usually tell the people at the end of the hearing, if I'm granting the injunction, they're doing this not only for other people, but maybe even for yourself. And I think with that discussion, they realize that I'm really not trying to do this as the enemy or trying to hurt them.
We looked at court records to find out about other cases. This one shows a man who said, "I am just giving you corrupt cops a warning. I will shoot. Expect people to die here." Police later found 6 long guns at his house. In another instance, a city employee threatened his coworkers, saying, "I'll come in here and shoot this place up. I'll go after their families too." Another document shows a woman who went into a hospital emergency room with a gun in a backpack and a drum full of ammunition, claiming she was going to show everyone how crazy she was. Police arrested all 3 of these subjects after finding out that they violated the orders and got guns even when they were not allowed to. Since Florida's legislators approved the red flag laws in 2018, judges across the state have taken up 8,900 RPO cases. Judges have granted the orders in almost all of those. More than 8,750 RPOs to date. Duval County, Jacksonville, has had 266 RPOs granted so far.
Do you believe in what you're doing?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that you could be stopping the next mass shooting?
I believe we can, yes.
Lieutenant Ron Bilyeu runs a special unit at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office where detectives work red flag cases.
What we do is we look at their background. Do they have any mental health issues, other violence, domestic within the last 12 months, things of that issue. And we can also additionally interview family and neighbors or other people who may have witnessed potential violence or use of a firearm in a threatening manner.
Investigators build evidence and then bring that before a judge. And if the order is granted, JSO will remove the firearms from someone's home, either leaving them with a friend or a family member or storing them until the RPO expires.
Look, you and I both know about the Second Amendment, and so many people don't want police officers to come in and take their guns away. Is that difficult?
It's a judicial process. We just don't go to people's houses. Somebody complains that their neighbor's got guns and they're always yelling at me about my garbage or something like that. We're not going to get involved with that.
But not everyone sees these red flag laws as fair.
They were a system and a process designed to make law enforcement's job easier at the loss of civil rights for the citizens of Florida. And it was wrong. It was an abuse of our civil rights, and they need to go away.
Eric Friday is a constitutional attorney who fights for gun rights. He says Florida's laws are quite simply unconstitutional.
It is the only civil right that you can be deprived of without having a right to an attorney.
He says the majority of RPOs come from a small number of counties with aggressive sheriffs and judges. We checked. Court records show Polk County has brought forth nearly 1,500 cases. Nearby Hillsborough and Pinellas counties with about 1,200 apiece. Those three counties make up more than 40% of cases statewide.
If a person is that big a danger to themselves or others due to their mental health or mental stability, they need to be taken to a receiving facility. They need to be evaluated by a doctor, not a police officer, and that person can petition the court that this person needs to be committed, which puts them on the no purchase list federally, or this person is not a danger to themselves or others, the law enforcement officer made a mistake, and this person can be released.
I only look at my small part of it, which is at this point not ongoing for treatment for this individual, but let's get the gun and let's get the firearm, let's get the danger out of the situation, and then hope that there's some other avenues where they can get treatment and help.
From red flag laws to voting rights, why some are going to jail after casting their ballot, and what's being done to clear up the confusion.
What did I do wrong? Voter fraud. What is voter fraud? Voting when you're not supposed to.
Shortly after law enforcement officers started arresting 20 people around the state of Florida for voting illegally in the 2020 election.
And now they're going to pay the price for it.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced the arrests were the result of an investigation by his newly formed election police.
Before I proposed this, and this was my idea.
What he didn't announce.
Why would y'all let me vote if I wasn't able to vote?
There was a common theme among the arrestees.
Voter fraud, I voted, but I ain't commit no fraud.
They didn't understand why they were being arrested.
Oh my God.
The Solutionaries have learned most, if not all of those arrested, thought their rights had been restored because they were allowed to register to vote.
They sent me a voter registration card,
including Peter Washington.
That would make me think that I was eligible to vote, or my rights were reinstated.
Did you intentionally cast an illegal ballot?
No.
Those same voters have gotten voter ID cards from the very government who is now charging them. Hi, I'm Neil Voles. I'm the Deputy Director of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Got involved in the movement in 2015. And helped lead the efforts to pass Amendment 4 in 2018. Ultimately, we're dealing with a data management problem. We should bring in the best experts we can and then put the systems and processes so that we can simply give somebody a yes or no within a short period of time once they register to vote.
Voles says the state needs a centralized database where people with felony convictions can check their eligibility.
The system is broken on the front end, and that's where we need to focus our solution.
According to the American Civil Liberties Union, in many states, everyone can vote except people currently in prison. In 19 states, people with felony convictions can vote after completing their sentence, and rights are automatically restored. So there's nothing they have to do. Florida is one of 7 states where people with certain felony convictions, like murder and sex crimes, cannot vote.
States like Louisiana, states like Alabama, you can go to a website, you can call somebody and get assurances and verification on the front end that you're eligible to vote.
Here's how the state of Alabama creates a safeguard in the system. In Alabama, people with felony convictions that are not murder or sex crimes, after completing their sentences, first apply for a certificate of eligibility to register to vote with the Board of Pardons and Paroles. The wait is up to 44 days to process voting rights restoration applications. If the certificate of eligibility is not granted, the person is not even allowed to register. That alone could fix Florida's problem.
The state of Florida could fix it. I'm Jeff Brandes, and I was the author of the implementing bill for Amendment 4.
Brandes says under Florida statute, all of the people arrested were ineligible to vote because they were convicted of murder or sexual offenses.
The Secretary of State's office just needs to do its job and compile the list of people who are convicted of felonies, or of sexual offenses or murder, and let's start there.
Brandes agrees with Voles that a centralized database would simplify the process.
It's fairly simple if somebody is convicted of one felony in one county. It gets much more complicated when you have multiple felonies in multiple jurisdictions.
Do you think correcting this is a priority for the state?
I think it should be. They could have a website dedicated to how felons can get their rights restored. They could have a standardized process and a standardized receipt that you're eligible to vote. It's just really a question of resources and how much resources the state is willing to put into solving these problems.
Why would y'all let me vote if I wasn't able to vote?
Meantime, the statewide prosecutor has dropped the charges against Tony Patterson, citing information received from the Hillsborough County Supervisor of Elections and the defendant's incarceration in an unrelated case as reasons. The Florida Rights Restoration Coalition says it believes a data management program could be put together inside of 1 year. Brandes says if the Secretary of State's office needs the money to do it, they should be asking the legislature for it during the next session. Stay with us as we tackle other issues solutionaries are working to solve and what you should do when friends and family get into heated conversations about politics.
We always know there's going to be that one relative that gets a kick out of kind of pushing buttons and seeing individuals maybe get uncomfortable by discussing this.
Thanks for staying with us as we highlight issues impacting our community and the solutionaries working to get results, including those uncomfortable ones, like talking politics with family.
You are not going to change anyone's mind in this conversation. So why even expend the energy in this setting of getting yourself upset in an attempt to do so? You are not going to change a mind.
If this is who my brother is, then what does that make me?
If you feel like maybe one of your family members is saying something dangerous, pull them aside. Don't embarrass them in front of everyone. My cousins were starting to believe in some crazy conspiracy theories that I thought were harmful.
Those concerns motivated Izare Webe to pursue a PhD in evolutionary psychology at Oakland University.
I wanted to look into, first of all, what explains why people are prone to believing these things in the first place. Is there a functional, adaptive reason why people might be paranoid and wary of, pharma companies or governments?
Like so many of us, Izare's family dynamics can get quite complicated.
It's almost like a perfect storm in some ways for potential family conflict. But you can have some tools in your tool belt to try to navigate those family gatherings a little bit easier.
Dr. Heidi Lyons is a professor of sociology at Oakland University.
The data does show that as a country we're becoming more politically polarized. I don't think that's surprising to anyone. So I think the probability of having a family member who might feel different politically than you do is probably higher because we have such a growing diversity in political thought.
Dr. Rose Moten is a clinical psychologist in Detroit.
We always know there's going to be that one relative that gets a kick out of kind of pushing buttons and seeing individuals maybe get uncomfortable by discussing this.
She says it's vital to remember understanding where someone is coming from does not necessarily mean you support their beliefs.
You can understand why pro-lifers are pro-lifers without agreeing with pro-lifers. You can understand why pro-choice individuals are pro-choice individuals without necessarily having to agree with them. And this is the beauty of kind of using, this logical brain here and this critical thinking, areas in our brain that allow us to see the differences in opinions.
It's kind of like, if this is who my brother is, then what does that make me? And so I think that makes sense, that you want your family who is in some ways a part of you. We think of our family as being an extension of us, to be aligned. I mean, that makes sense.
Here's what you can do if the family get-together this year goes off the rails.
So step number 1, always remember, you can only control yourself, your actions, and your reactions.
If you feel like maybe one of your family members is saying something dangerous, pull them aside. Don't embarrass them in front of everyone. Pull them aside. Explain to them why you are concerned about that belief.
One of your personal boundaries may be, I don't engage in these conversations if they come up in settings that I don't deem they're appropriate to be had in.
The next thing is that we want to make sure that you're aligning your expectations.
You are not going to change anyone's mind in this conversation. So why even expend the energy in this setting of getting yourself upset in an attempt to do so? You are not going to change a mind.
You will alienate them further if you just tell them that they're stupid. They're not. Evidence doesn't show that intelligence is related to belief in conspiracy theories.
Remember, you don't have to be all things to all people in your life, right? So just because people don't align politically with you doesn't mean that you can't be a good daughter, son, brother, father, right? Just because they're different, choose to align on something else. Talk about other things. You don't have to be all things to all people.
Dr. Rose suggests a simple breathing technique that you can do at the dining table or in the living room if a dispute becomes heated. Inhale through your nose, holding your breath for about 4 to 5 seconds, and then slowly exhale through your mouth, holding your breath again before you inhale. Repeat the exercise 3 to 4 times, and experts say it's been proven to help calm your physiological state.
The person who doesn't think the same as you do is as passionate about their views as you are. And you don't want to listen with the intent of, I just got to get in there and respond. Listen with an open mind and understand there's always a why behind why a person feels the way they do.
As her semester wraps up, PhD candidate Izare Webe says she'll offer more than an olive branch.
People I don't agree with politically in my family, I now understand where they're coming from more, especially during election time.
She's armed with education, a deeper knowledge of what motivates people and how to react.
I'm so thrilled because now I can actually do my job of understanding human nature and not being shocked and baffled whenever, an election doesn't turn out the way I imagine it would be.
Solutionaries is just getting started. We already covered red flag laws, voting confusion, and those awkward political conversations. But we're also taking on the foster system.
It's been hard at times because it was just me and my husband for years. We went a lot of years, just the two of us, and all of a sudden to have 3 children, it's been a big adjustment. But now I can't imagine life without them living here.
Postpartum care.
During my postpartum depression, I felt like alone, and there was so many things that I was going through, and I'm just like, how am I gonna get this done?
Yeah. Recent data shows that 1 in 8 women suffer from postpartum depression, and over 50% of those had some type of depression or mental illness during their pregnancy.
How to finally get a good night's rest.
It's a little after 4 in the afternoon. My day starts around 3:30 in the morning when I get up. And so all I want to do is just get into cozy clothes. It's a little bit before 7 p.m., so the tricky thing is trying to get enough sleep before then. It's already a little bit after 8 in the evening, and I'm hoping my mind doesn't go racing different directions as I lay my head down on my pillow, but we'll see how it goes. All right, I got about 5 hours of inconsistent sleep, and I'm already hearing that it's going to be a busy morning.
So there are a lot of potential underlying causes for sleep deprivation. It can be anything from underlying medical issues like people dealing with chronic pain, mood disorders like anxiety or depression. Sometimes medications can contribute to insomnia or sleep deprivation.
And more.
Kids being tardy to school, if it's excessive, you want to find out why. You're investigating early pickups. If kids are leaving school early, you want to find out why. And of course, when kids are not in school on a regular basis.
To learn more about the problems we're all facing as a community and what's being done to get results, just download the new 6 Plus app, scroll down to Solutionaries, and start watching.